Right, well, I think I can say this without any bit of exaggeration. This is probably one of the greatest music-related shows I've ever seen. It changed my life. At least, it did back when I was American.
Made to hit in America.
I was made to hit in America.
Okay, now that I've offended about half the known world, how about we get started and review this puppy? Originally a manga by Harold Sakuichi and later adapted into anime form by Studio Madhouse, Beck is one of those rare examples of an anime that could very easily fall apart based on its premise alone, but somehow manages to pull it off so brilliantly it could actually be called a work of genius. In some cases. The story concerns a young man named Koyuki who is basically bored of life despite the fact that he's barely experienced it. He's only in middle school, but he's not passionate about anything and barely finds interest in his everyday activities. He's pretty much just going through the motions, as it were. However, all of that changes after a chance run-in with a stranger named Ryusuke and his even stranger-looking dog named Beck, who looks like he was a pet of Dr. Frankenstein's, and the two of them get Koyuki interested in music. Soon Koyuki is so passionate about it that he takes up the guitar and the vocals in hopes of becoming a bandmate for Ryusuke. Along with them for the ride is their loudmouth vocalist, Chiba, Maho, who is not only Ryusuke's sister, but also Koyuki's sorta kinda sometimes girlfriend, his swim instructor, Mr. Saito, their drummer, Yuji, who also happens to be Koyuki's best friend, and also their soft-spoken bassist, Taira. And together this small-time group sets out to become the world's ultimate band. Now, don't let that description fool you into thinking this is that sort of feel-good rise-to-glory tale or anything like that. It's anything but. The pacing of the story is actually really realistic, even though it can sometimes be kind of hard to tell how much time has passed between the episodes, because by the end of the series, Koyuki has graduated high school, even though he was only about halfway through middle school when the series began. Beck's story portrayal is really probably the best part of the series. The band does not hit it big right away. In fact, the entire band isn't even formed until about the 8th or 9th episode, and even after that, the band pretty much spends the entire series going from show to show, working very small clubs, hoping to hit it big, but never really getting there. It's very true to life of the actual music scene of a small-time band trying to become a hit, and all the tragedies that they have to deal with along the way, to the point where you're just begging to see these guys succeed, and every little victory that anybody in the band has at any point in the series is just such a gratifying experience when they finally get to it. One of the reasons this works so well is because it's so realistic, and I'll be honest, this is usually where I would start saying that this really isn't the kind of thing that I enjoy, because I watch anime because I want escapism. I want to see fantasy and science fiction most of the time. But this is a story that really managed to draw me in based entirely on its realistic situations, its portrayal of the music industry, and the struggle of a no-name band trying to make a name for itself, and also the characters. My god, the characters. I could point to each one and name somebody in my life that I had come across that I knew that acted exactly like that. And I think a lot of people can agree. I think most people know a Taira, a Koyuki, a Ryusuke, and I think we're all sorry to say that we know a couple Chibas. And trust me, that's a few Chibas too many.
Okay. That's enough of this bullshit.
I will admit that Probably the reason I love the characters so much is in their voices, but I'll get into that a little later on. But right now it's time for me to play the bad guy, because it's my unpleasant duty to inform you that Beck will never win any awards based off of its animation. That much is certain. Studio Madhouse seems to have a bit of a history when it comes to this sort of thing. They often make some really great classic anime, but for whatever reason, sometimes overlook some continuity errors, or at times just don't throw that much into the animation budget of a show. Beck is unfortunately the latter. A lot of the time, the characters look okay, but from far away they can actually look like blobs or doodles sometimes, and even in the dub, whether you're listening to the Japanese or the English soundtrack, it can often sound very, not lip-syncy-ish, I guess. But those sad facts aside, I will also say that a lot of it is told in still shots, at least when characters are holding a conversation, and the movement is sometimes rather minimal. When you get up close on a character, though, it does look a whole lot better, and the characters are at least consistent from scene to scene. There are no big changes, except for maybe one or two style changes that happen halfway through the series or so. That isn't to say that the animation is horrible. Like I said, most of the time it's passable, but you can definitely tell at certain spots they didn't really throw much money at the animation team. However, the animation team worked with what they had, and they definitely knew where their priorities lay. A majority of the best animation in the series happens with the most dramatic moments, of which there are several, and of course with the musical performances. The animation definitely takes a noticeable step up in quality whenever somebody is singing on a stage. But of course, if animation could make or break a show, there are a ton of great shows out there that probably wouldn't be considered so great if they were judged solely on their animation. And besides, Beck really isn't about its action sequences or anything like that. It's about the music. And here's where I'll probably lose a few of you, because I myself am a very casual music fan. I listen to songs now and then, and while my preference lies in foreign music, I have to say that the music in this series is awesome. I mean, come on, the music has to be great, otherwise you really don't have a lot of substance to your story if that story happens to be about a band. But it's not just the band or the music that really makes this great. It's just the way that it's utilized. Music from pretty much every era and every genre is played at one point or another in this series. You have blues, jazz, rap, hip-hop, new wave, metal, classic rock, contemporary rock, pop, all of it showing up at one point or another. It's actually pretty remarkable, the width and breadth of the types of music that they have put into this show. While not all of it is played by the bands, it's used in a very effective light. I will also say that it probably has one of my favorite opening themes as well, Hittin' the USA by the Beat Crusaders. That being said, it's also a testament to the voice actors that do this in English, because they are not only fantastic voice actors, but also fantastic singers as well. I was actually really shocked when I heard Koyuki's voice in particular, played by Greg Ayers. He's played as sort of a nerdy, quiet, timid, crackly voiced kid, but when you hear him sing, just the amount of confidence that he puts into his singing, it's like a completely different character, and that really speaks to how he plays Koyuki as a person. Of course, music buffs are going to appreciate all of the name drops that they give to classic groups like the Beatles and the Stones, and all the references that they have to the music business in general. But one of the best parts about this is just how good the music and the songs are. And I'm sorry I don't have footage of it, but my DVDs were kinda shaky while I was doing this. But with that being said, I will give them credit for making these songs sound really credible, despite the fact that they are basically just directly translated covers with a few small alterations here and there. Moon on the Water is one of the most romantic tunes I've heard in a long time, despite the fact that the lyrics are absolutely ridiculous. Another thing I should note that makes Beck pretty unique in my eyes is just the cinematography of it. It really does feel like something I would see at, say, a Sundance Film Festival or something like that. Just the way that it's shot, the way that it completely abuses the fade out and fade in and fade to black filter on almost the end of every single scene, the way that the people talk, the way that it utilizes its music, it just really feels like something I should be watching at the Sundance Film Festival. Of course, I've already stated my feelings on the animation, so with that in mind, it should be noted that while I'm saying that it being something I'd see at the film festival is a compliment, it also carries a bit of the bad parts of that as well. It does feel very much like an independent film, which means that parts of it can feel kind of rushed somewhat. But that's certainly not a bad thing. As I noted at the beginning, the pacing of this show is fantastic, and I honestly wouldn't go back and change a thing, because even with the parts that don't seem to work as well as they could have, I feel like if you changed it, the entire show would be altered, and probably for the worse. So with all of that being said, I highly recommend this series, especially if you can find it in its box set form. But I do have to say, it'll probably be a series that will only really appeal to a limited audience. As much praise as I've heaped on it, I'm the kind of person who really likes a series like this. If you're a person who loves music, is in a band, or just appreciates sound in general, then you will definitely find this a very interesting watch. If you're more of a casual listener, or just the kind of person who is looking for a good slice of life, then this might not be right up your alley, because, I'm not kidding, the entire series revolves around music. While the problems of all the members of the band are addressed, and they are legitimate problems that don't get solved right away, they spend like a few episodes on every problem, you're still going to have to get used to the fact that music is everywhere and is a driving force in this series. I believe Anime News Network put it best when they said that this was a music junkie's holy grail. And that being said, I am telling you all to go out and try to find this, because it is fantastic.
Asshole!